Hello everyone, and welcome back to another figure review. Today, we're taking a look at the S.H.Figuarts Dragon Ball Z Vegeta, 24,000 power level. This iteration of Vegeta is going to be based off his appearance during the first half of the Namek Saga. Now, I'm sure many of you, myself included, were expecting that base form Vegeta from the Android Saga that Tamashii teased way back when, or even the old style battle armor from the latter half of the Namek Saga, which ironically enough during the writing of this review, Tamashii dropped the pre-order for that version of Vegeta, so if you want that Vegeta, get your pre-orders in on Premium Bandai while you can. Now, let's dive into the review, starting with the packaging. On the front of the box, we have Vegeta in an action pose looking like he's ready to send Dodoria to the next dimension, and shout out to you if you get that reference. We also get that manga-style paneling in the background with a deep blue to complement Vegeta's color scheme. The right side of the box is a continuation of the front, with the back side giving us a look at what to expect with Vegeta. We get a glimpse at his crossed arms accessory, those detailed faces, as well as some ideas for posing. Here's a look at the left side of the box. A quick look at the top. And bottom to round off the packaging. For the paint detail on Vegeta, he's unfortunately going to be lacking in the paint department. Most of the paint that you see on Vegeta is going to be on the yellow pieces of his armor, the white for the gloves and boots, the area around his neck, his scouter, and the hair for the faceplates, which are color matched perfectly to the rest of the head sculpt. The rest of Vegeta's iconic armor and jumpsuit is going to be done in a low gloss finish. As for the detail on the figure, I think Tamashii nailed it. Vegeta here is rocking some nicely sculpted shoulder pads that utilize the new swivel hinge system borrowed from Turles and Broly from Dragon Ball Super, which is a vast improvement over the 2.0 Scouter Vegeta, or any armored character for that matter. And the head sculpt and faces on this guy? Easily some of the best that we've gotten on a Vegeta. I'd say right up there with the Dragon Ball Super Superhero Vegeta and the Awakened Super Saiyan Blood release. I honestly think Tamashii is still doing a great job capturing the lightness of these characters with their print work. Except you, Yamcha. I don't know what happened to you. You came up a bit short. Speaking of short, Vegeta here is going to be a tad shorter compared to previous Vegeta releases like the 2.0 Scouter Vegeta we see here. I'm sure to some of you this doesn't seem like a big deal, but to those of you who actually care about scaling, he's going to be more accurate thanks to the new chest and lower half of the figure. I personally like the way the figure scales and the hair makes up for the difference, as it should. My only gripe with this retooling of Vegeta is going to be his chest. It is excessively broad when compared to his other iterations, and it makes his shoulders stick out just a bit too far in my opinion. If the chest had been a shade slimmer, it would have been perfect. I can just hear Brian Drummond's voice when I look at this guy. It has that hint of early 90s animation, and it makes me think back to the early 2000s when the Ocean dub version of Dragon Ball Z was on TV. Plus, if you're old enough to remember Irwin Toys, there was a particular Vegeta action figure that had a blast effect that you could launch out of his hands. I remember having that Vegeta, as well as the Super Saiyan Goku. Those were some of my first Dragon Ball figures as a kid, and sadly I've misplaced them over the years. And I may not have appreciated them like I do my current figures. But hey, I was a kid, and this is leagues better over what we had back then. So with that said, let's move on to the articulation. Alright, let's get into the articulation here for Vegeta. Despite using the same arms and ankles as some of his previous iterations, I'd argue that this is an entirely new sculpt for Vegeta, and we'll talk about it as we get into it. Starting with the head and working our way down, Vegeta is still going to be on a ball hinge that allows him to look up this far, and look down about neutral. It isn't until you start taking the neck joint into consideration that he's able to move around pretty decently. Despite getting some wicked gapping down here, Vegeta can look up fairly decently for some very nice action poses if he was flying, or even bury his chin into his chest, no problem. Like I mentioned, that gap is pretty horrendous, and it doesn't look like the new battle armor, the newly announced old style battle armor Vegeta is going to be using that same neck joint, so what can you do? Hopefully they improve upon it just a little bit to make it not as bodaciously gappy. The other new piece of articulation for Vegeta is going to be the shoulder pad. The shoulder pads do peg into a hinge that swivels out of the way, and you can get Vegeta to bring those arms up fairly decently. With the shoulder pads down, it's not as nice. I would say almost 180 degree T-pose, which that's not bad, all things considered. But I do want to stress that these arms are just a little too bulky for this iteration of Vegeta, especially during the Namek Saga. I feel like they need to be a little bit more slender, because just how awkwardly bulky he looks whenever the shoulder pads are down. It just looks a little too swole, in my opinion, for this time period. But I digress. We do get some pretty nice butterfly joints that allow Vegeta to bring his arms in about that far. They do go back in, but because of how bulky the arms are, yeah, you do get a upper bicep swivel that rotates at full 360. This one here is just a little bit loose on me, I'd argue. Right now it's not wanting to show it because it's a little camera shy, but yeah. Double jointed elbows. And we have hinges for the wrist pegs. Now, if you, like me, do not like the way these shoulders look, there is an alternative. If you have an extra Latent Power Trunks laying around, or if you want to, you can snag one on Big Bag Toy Store right now, you can swap these arms over, and it's a pretty close match. It's not exactly the same kind of glossy finish for this plastic as it is here. This is more of a matte finish. This is a semi-gloss. They fit perfectly. They will peg in, and you can get the arms to, I guess, get a better range of motion and also move around in here a little bit better than the way it is right now. It's just a little bit too tight of a tolerance for me. And that probably would take care a lot of the, like if you push the shoulders in, it would take care of, you know, wanting to put that down and actually kind of slim them up just a tad. But I found that out from AR Collector on Instagram, so shout out to them. If you want to, you can go give them a follow or something. But I might be doing that after this review is all said and done. So, another thing I want to point out. My sockets were just a little too tight. I did put some shock oil in there. If you want to find some, you can go to dstartoy.com and pick up some silicone oil. It's 100%. You just put a little dab in there. A drop is all you need, and then work it in, and it takes care of that squeakiness that you hear if it's extremely tight. I do recommend that. Now, for the next new point of articulation and design, the chest. I have very contentious feelings about this. Just because, well, one, it's a good thing that the gap is gone. There's no more trap hole whenever you lean him back, like there was on the Super Saiyan Blue review that I did. And the trade-off is he can't lean that far forward, and with the way that they designed the waist, you can't crunch him back or forward at the waist. It is it is a bit of a bummer, and I'm not too thrilled about that. I don't know why they did that, but yeah, there's just no crunch. And rotating it, forget it. It's going to creak like a mother, and I'm not going to put it through that kind of strain. Now, we do get a little bit of rotation up top, and you do get a little bit of side-to-side tilt. So there is that. The legs do kick out 190 degree angle, a full 90 degree, excuse me. So, yeah, 90 degrees. Going back, it's about 45 degrees. So, yeah, you have about, what is that, 135 degrees of articulation points of range here. It's not the greatest, so it is what it is. We also do get the 45 degree split. This Vegeta also does not suffer from the springy hip joints, so that is good. We do get an upper thigh swivel, double jointed knees, and the god-awful ankles. Posing Vegeta is a little bit of a struggle because these ankles don't pivot as they should. It is a dumbbell system. You can get it to go down pretty far. Going up and into his foot cavity or his ankle cavity is, yeah, it's about neutral. But yeah, you can get the feet to tilt down that far. And we do have a not even 45 degree toe hinge. Yikes. But yeah, that's the articulation of Vegeta.
Again, it's not my favorite just because these shoulders are too broad, but again, I might be doing that modification here to remedy that. And then the ankles, it's Vegeta until we get a proper 3.0.
Oh, but they already made Super Saiyan 4.
I don't care. I want a brand new sculpt that is just oozing all that 3.0 goodness, and until we get that, we're stuck with these ankles. So, Vegeta will do what you want him to do. Again, it's probably not going to look the greatest because of the shoulder pads, but again, there probably is no good alternative for that, and there probably won't be. This is probably as close as we're going to get, so thank you for the Broly and the Turles for just, I guess, paving the way for this, because without them, we wouldn't have got this. And I feel like he is a vast improvement still over this guy here. That's just me. And you can see the size comparison. Look at this. It's great. Let's move on to some accessories. For the accessories, Vegeta is going to be rocking 3 extra sets of faces for a total of 4, 3 extra sets of hands for a total of 4, an interchangeable earpiece, as well as the scouter, and the new crossed arms accessory piece. For the faces we get, the default smirking face, a teeth gritting face, a wildly animated shouting face, which I personally love, and another smirking face, but this time Vegeta is showing off some pearly whites. The neat feature about this Vegeta is that you can interchange the scouter or the left earpiece between each face. And while the seam line may be visible, I'm just happy that we have this option when compared to some of your other figures that just come with scouters. I do, however, think that the 2.0 Scouter Vegeta has the best setup. 2 head sculpts that allow you to use all the faces, but one of them has a cutout for the scouter to peg in behind the ear. For the hands, we get the 2 fists that come attached, 2 karate chop hands, 2 clenched hands, and 2 open palm hands. Lastly, the crossed arms piece. This here is a vast improvement over the original crossed arms accessory that we get with other iterations of Vegeta. No longer do we have to remove the arms from the biceps. Now we just unpeg the arms from the sockets, separate the crossed arms at the left glove, peg the arms into the sockets, and recombine the arms together. The crossed arms piece is molded perfectly to the chest, and in my opinion, is a much better design than what we've had over the years. Other than that, we did get another faceplate in hand for Vegeta with Qui, so we can recreate the dirty fireworks scene. I think the only thing missing from this release is a hand and a finger gun pose from when he kills all those Namekians while looking for their Dragon Ball. For the comparisons, we have Vegeta in X2, Kid Gohan, Kui, Kui, or Kiwi, Piccolo, the Proud Namekian, and Dodoria. For the head swaps, we'll be taking a look at what this head sculpt looks like on other Vegeta bodies and vice versa. Keep in mind that the peg for the 24,000 Vegeta sits up a bit taller than your other Vegetas, and his head will sit down a little ways on the older bodies. All but one of these will be lore accurate, but at the same time, all the other head sculpts are giving me the Budokai 3 vibes if y'all remember changing Vegeta's outfit for those what-if scenarios. So, here's what we have. The 2.0 Scouter Vegeta body, the Awakened Super Saiyan Blood body, the Majin Vegeta event exclusive body, and the 15th anniversary Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta body. And now we'll be taking a look at all the head sculpts on the 24,000 body. Keep in mind on the 24,000 body, you might run into some color variances on the skin tone, and the head may not look as right because of the broad chest. Here's a look at Vegeta's shouting face on the Majin Vegeta body. You could either use it for him transforming, or just have it on there because it looks very comedic. So for my closing thoughts on Vegeta here, I've kind of got mixed feelings on this one. On one hand, I'm happy Vegeta is getting more love, but at the same time I'd argue, but loosely defend, that this is an improved upon design of the 2.0 Scatter Vegeta. But at the same time, he's not the Scatter Vegeta, if that makes sense. While I like this look for Vegeta a smidge more than his Saiyan Saga appearance, I think it's still not what most people wanted, given how desirable that iteration of Vegeta is. But the 24,000 Vegeta definitely fills out a certain role within the collection, especially the earlier half of the Namek Saga. It's a night and day difference when you compare the promotional shots of the Doria with the 2.0 Scatter Vegeta versus the 24,000 Vegeta. With this reissue, Kui, Full Power Frieza, and the newly announced Old Style Battle Armor Vegeta, I think the only figures we're missing from the Namek Saga is a transformed Zarbon and Nail. Sure, a person could argue for more battle damaged characters from this arc, like a general release of Goku with his upper portion of his orange gi missing, and that'd be an easy retooling of the Ultra Instinct signed Goku, but honestly, we have been on this Namek Saga trend since January of 2020, and while we have received some great figures and some not so great figures, looking at you, Goldo, I'd like to leave the Namek Saga behind for now so we can focus on the Cell and Buu sagas respectively, or hell, even GT. I want my Super Baby too, you motherfuckers. But no, when it came time to vote for the Fighters figure, y'all thirsty motherfuckers out there picked Kefla. Let that sink in. Y'all picked this hoe not only over Super Baby, but also Janemba and Kid Buu.
But you bought the figure, so...
Shut up, I don't care. Eat me. But anywho, rant aside. If you like this look for Vegeta or are needing an alternative to Scatter Vegeta and don't mind the fact that he's missing his tail or lower pads for the armor, he's an easy pickup. The broad chest of his is growing on me the more that I have him in hand, but at the same time I'm having difficulty looking past the design choices they went with the torso region, and the figure could have stood for a little more shading and paint to warrant the P-Bandai tags. And if you paid attention to the Vegeta here in the outro, you'll notice that I went ahead and did the Latent Power Trunks arm swap, and it is chef's kiss, 10 out of 10, highly recommend. If you have one, do it. As for the color match, to the untrained eye, you wouldn't notice. So, with that said, get him if you must, but do so before he goes up in price. And that brings us to the end of the review. I want to thank you, the viewer, for making it to the end of the review. If you haven't already, kindly hit the like button and subscribe, as it helps me out and keeps the channel growing. Plus, I've got other videos on the channel and more to come. And I'd also love to hear your thoughts on this Vegeta. Do you have it, want it, love it, or hate it? I'd love to hear it all. But as always, this has been Talib Reviews, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.